Hi guys, how are you? How many of you like to be managed by your boss? Have you seen that in the job world there are plethora of managers and administrators? Many junior level employees are waiting to be tagged as a manager in their roles. Universities are certifying more and more people as managers and administrators. But the fact is, no one wants to be managed. Isn't it ironic? People want to become manager, but there are hardly anyone who wants to be managed. So, folks, in my almost around 2 decades of career in IT and multiple volunteering roles that I did as a mentor, as a coach at multiple levels, I found that most of the sharpest minds don't like to be managed at all. I remember a discussion with my friend Binny last week. He was feeling very frustrated, and we were having this Zoom meeting. And I asked him, "What happened, Binny?" And his long story started about his manager pursuing him to finish and not pursuing, rather pushing him to finish an escalated technical work. And I said, "Fine, you understand technology, right?" But he said, "I work as a director of technology. How can I now start going back and code like a developer? I can do that, but then I thought I need to put my efforts on leadership, bring some more business, some strategies, and all the stuff." But then I asked, "Why don't you discuss with your manager and come up with a mutually agreed and beneficial path? Maybe there's some confusion which you should discuss with him and clarify." And what he said was amazing. He said he doesn't listen. If I give him if I ask him anything, if I tell him anything, he starts giving me sermons. Friends, have you heard about similar incidences in your company? In my view, probably this instance would be one of the simplest one. Just discuss and get it resolved with your manager. However, the major challenge is mostly all these kind of discussions ends in a deadlock. And the reason is our leadership practices are not keeping up with the realities. And you know what is the result? The result is an increasing gap between employees and employers and managers. The way they are being managed at work, it's a big gap there. And countless surveys you might have seen which have been done in this area, ending in headlines like 6 out of 10 workers are miserable. 74% of staffs are not engaged at work. Dig into those surveys and you will see leadership quality on top of the list of complaints. Go on Glassdoor or any other surveys or any of the job review portals and all that. You'll find most of the questions are asked, put on the leadership. The poor state of leadership and management skills in organization is being driven by broad range of factors. And of course, it includes the changing nature of the work, the increasing education of employee, needs of X and Y generation, the new generations, and the pace of change that is happening. It's evident that people don't want to be managed anymore, which is forcing a kind of leadership crisis. I thought to explore on this, how to respond to this leadership crisis. And I was recommended an amazing book around this by my mentor, and the book named is Quiet Leadership. It's by David Rock, and I found some interesting things in that book, which answers to the leadership crisis that we are seeing. I'll put all these details in multiple videos. I'm not going to create a 1 hour long video, just 10-15 minutes of video. I'll put it into 2-3 parts. But today I wanted to cover the problem area. And one of the reason why this leadership crisis has come is a history of management models. If you see, almost 100 years ago, most people were paid for their physical labor. The dominant management model was the master apprentice. And the role of the manager was to improve how people carried out observable physical activities such as hammering, plowing. And by the mid century, if you see, we had a significant shift in what people were doing for a living, driven by the advent of electricity, mechanizations. Much of our work now, if you see, is involved executing those automated processes, and that doesn't require lots of physical work. The dominant leadership paradigm became the management of processes, not people. Manage the processes. The people driving the processes were just smart enough to follow plans laid out by management. I've seen in 2005-6 frame of time when big process used to be created, and then people were just being asked, just follow these processes blindly, CMMI and all that kind of process. I'm not against it, but we'll come to it. So why only processes doesn't work. So by 2005, due to all this computerization and outsourcing and other process improvement that happened, 40% of employees were considered to be purely a knowledge workers. And in mid-level management, the number is close to 100%. So many people in the companies are not now paid not for work. They're not paid to work physically, but they are paid to think. And this big gap that management models we are applying to our workforce are still those of the process area. We have not yet taught our leaders and managers how to improve their thinking. And during current times when educated and independent mindset employees are all around, this has become even more important. If you see around in your companies, employees today are better educated than any previous generation. The MBA is like daily thing. It's not a mark of distinction, or it's more of a entry requirement. 30 years ago, I think there were very few universities delivering MBAs, handful of them. Now there are thousands. And so not only leaders now need to improve thinking, they need to do so with highly knowledgeable individuals. As well as being more educated employees across the world have, if you see, they have more independence now. They have more wealth now. Billions of executives worldwide now enjoy the kind of wealth that only a fraction of population used to enjoy 50 years ago. You can actually just walk to a wealthy executive in charge of 100 million revenue stream and start telling them what to do because you are the boss. And the increasing education and independence of employees is as important issue. We have not significantly reinvented our management models since the time Henry Ford hired a pair of hands and wished they had left their brains behind. This is how it used to happen. Don't apply your brain, just do the work. But times have changed. And challenge is not only about the change, the pace of change. When today's management models were developed, we lived in a time where product cycles were 10 years, 20 years. Now, life cycles can be 10 months. Product life cycle can be even 10 days. A pace of change that would terrify a 1970s guy. When a big change comes along, the leader's first job is to change people's thinking. And most of the leaders are trained to change processes, not thinking, not people. So, how do we improve performance by improving thinking? I really like the model that David Rock gave. He says, like an iceberg, our performance and some of our behaviors are visible while, for example, here is a iceberg. So performance and some of our top line behaviors are visible, but the behaviors like feelings, thoughts are below the water. There's a lot more driving our performance than just a few habits that we see on the surface. And at the base of all this is the way we think. You try to understand any person. He might be a good performer, he might be a bad performer at iceberg level, but below that there are so many things going on. He might be a great performer, but something is happening in his life. Nobody cares about it. I was discussing one of my team member, and his, okay, I don't want to take the exact example, but very close to her passed away. And the team was, the manager and leaders, they didn't even bother to check what happened in your life, and they were just focusing on, come on, you have to finish this, you have to finish that. That's why that iceberg is so important. So when a leader wants to improve someone's performance, he doesn't understand this iceberg model. They tend to stay on the surface and focus on the performance. They rarely discuss which habits might be driving the employee's performance, discussing their feelings. And they don't even have those kind of conversation. They'll start with, hey, what is the project status and this and that. But if you want to improve performance, the most effective way is to start at the bottom, and that is to improve thinking. And that's where I thought one can respond to the leadership crisis. So this kind of leadership crisis is in almost many organizations. They have lack of right talent to fill the key positions and mid and senior levels. And this explains executive salaries and the amount they pay to the search firms and all that. So there's a very good concept by Ram Charan about leadership pipeline that describes critical passages that leaders go through, such as moving from managing oneself to managing others. As leaders go through each phase, they also need to change their thinking. But challenge is most of the organizations have either no or very scant resources allocated to help people go through this change, even for leaders and of course then people under the leaders. So friends, it's time leaders learn how to improve people's thinkings. They need to invest there. Thinking is what many employees are being paid to do. Many employees are competent individuals who will thrive on this approach. They want to work smarter. They want to be smarter. They are crying out for help. They don't want one-sided sermons and gyan and all that, which most of the leaders and mentors latch up during a crisis. They will keep on giving some examples. They'll keep on giving, hey, I did that, he did that, but they don't understand their personalized individual problem. And this is where I think coaching can fill the gap. So coaching is a thought-provoking partnership. It's not about one-sided sermon. It's about partnership that supports client in reaching their fullest professional and personal potential. I used to think that coach is a mentor, but no, coach is not a mentor. A coach is someone who gives you, rather a mentor is someone who gives you ready-made solutions, but he's not a thought partner. Coach is a thought partner, a accountability partner, a catalyst which guides you towards clarity about your goals. The only job that coach does is being a catalyst who guides his client towards clarity about their goals. He may not have the solutions, but he'll help you move towards asking you right questions so that you can move towards the goals that you wanted to. And it's not only at a professional level, but also at a personal level. Coaches help clients map the route to achieving these goals by producing favorable outcomes. He can work with the individual or team and help them walk through the natural states of fear and insecurity towards openness and new possibilities. A professional coach is also trained to recognize whether someone needs additional support. It could be counseling, maybe psychology, and maybe something necessary to lead through that crisis. So that's what I wanted to cover, folks. I'll cover some of the strategies. I know I just talked about the problem and so I started with why this leadership crisis is, why there's a big gap between employees and employers, employees and managers. The expectations have changed, the scenario has changed, the generation has changed, but the models that we are using is still very old. So it was very important to understand this problem. In the next few talks, I'm going to cover the strategies that is coming out from this book, from my personal experience. And I'll call this series Responding to the Leadership Crisis. And I would also like to hear from you, friends, your experience about this leadership crisis. Some of you may be wanting to be a manager, some of you may be dealing with those kind of manager who are still employing the old models. So do you have any thoughts around that? I know none of us want to be managed, but this needs to be resolved. So share your experiences, share your thoughts. What else you can do? What else do you think? And let's have a good conversation. Let's see if we can co-create some amazing solutions. Thank you so much, friends. And do subscribe to the channel, do subscribe to the page so that you can keep getting the update for my next videos. Thank you so much. See you. Bye.